Manila streets were alive that evening. The chaos of jeepneys, the laughter of children playing barefoot in puddles, and the occasional melody of a street performer's broken guitar. But among all those sounds, one voice stood out, a soft, trembling voice that sang to the stars, as if the heavens themselves might listen. That voice belonged to Juan de la Cruz, a thin, barefoot boy no older than 16. His shirt was torn, his hands calloused, and his eyes, deep brown, full of stories and sorrow, carried the quiet weight of dreams too big for the streets he lived on. Every night, Juan sang outside restaurants, hoping for a few coins. His mother had fallen ill years ago, and his father had left, chasing work overseas, and never coming back. Juan sang not for fame, but to buy medicine, to buy food, and sometimes just to survive another day. His voice was raw and imperfect, but it had something rare, truth. The kind that pierced through noise, and reached the heart. Yet, for most who passed by, Juan was invisible. Just another poor boy in Manila's endless traffic of struggle. One rainy night, as Juan stood under a flickering streetlight singing "You Raise Me Up," a foreign tourist stopped. She was an older woman, holding a small umbrella, her eyes misty with emotion. She recorded him on her phone, tears streaming as the boy's trembling voice echoed against the wet pavement. "You have a gift, young man," she said softly. "Don't stop singing. The world needs to hear you." Juan smiled shyly, bowing his head. He had heard words like that before, but to him, they were just kindness, not promises. He didn't know that this woman, Margaret Lee, was a retired music producer visiting from Los Angeles. That night, she uploaded the video with the title, "Poor Filipino Boy Sings Like an Angel on the Streets of Manila." By morning, it had gone viral. Millions of views. Comments flooded in, people crying, praying, begging someone to find the boy, but Juan didn't know. He had no phone, no internet, no clue that the world had fallen in love with him. 3 days later, a black van stopped near the corner, where he usually sang. 2 men stepped out, holding papers and speaking in English he barely understood. "Juan de la Cruz. You've been invited to audition for America's Got Talent. All expenses paid." Juan froze. He thought it was a scam. But when Margaret appeared from behind them, smiling warmly, he realized this was real. His knees buckled, tears mixing with rain. "Mammy. In America." "Yes, Juan," she said, touching his shoulder gently. "You're going to sing for the world." Weeks later, Juan stood backstage at the America's Got Talent stage in Los Angeles. The lights were blinding. The audience, thousands of faces, cheering strangers. He had never even seen an airplane before, and now he was about to stand before Simon Cowell himself. He held his mother's rosary tight in his hand. His heart pounded. The stage manager called his name. Next up, Juan de la Cruz, all the way from the Philippines. The crowd clapped politely as he walked on stage, nervous and trembling. Simon looked at him curiously. Simon leaned forward. "What's your name, young man?" "J. Juan, sir. From Manila, Philippines." Simon smiled faintly. "And why are you here, Juan?" Juan hesitated, then whispered into the mic. "I just want to make my mama proud. She's sick. And maybe if I sing well, I can take her to a hospital one day." A quiet wave of empathy rippled through the audience. Simon nodded softly. "Okay, Juan. The stage is yours." The lights dimmed. Juan closed his eyes. And then, with a trembling breath, he began to sing Hotel California. At first, it was shy, small, and fragile like his frame. But then something shifted. His voice rose, soaring through the theater like a wave of emotion. The raw pain, the struggle, the loneliness, every note carried a story. People started standing. Judges exchanged glances. The crowd began cheering halfway through the song. By the time he reached the final line, "You can check out any time you like, but you can never leave," the entire theater was on its feet, roaring in applause. Juan stood there in shock, eyes wide, tears streaming down his cheeks. Simon Cowell was speechless for a moment. Then he stood up slowly, his expression unreadable. "Juan," he said finally, his voice softer than usual, "I've judged thousands of singers. But I have never heard something so real, so pure, so human." He pressed the golden buzzer. Golden confetti rained down. Juan dropped to his knees, crying uncontrollably. The audience chanted his name. The camera zoomed in on Simon, who simply whispered, "You deserve the world, kid." Backstage, Juan clutched the golden confetti in his hands, shaking. "I did it, Mama," he whispered to himself. "I did it." When the episode aired, it broke records. The world couldn't stop talking about the poor boy from Manila with the voice of an angel. Donations poured in for his mother's treatment. The Philippine president even sent a message of pride, but Juan never changed. He still prayed before every performance, still sent money back home, and still thanked every person who smiled at him. When the finals came, he sang a Tagalog song, Anak, dedicating it to his mother, watching from a hospital bed back in Manila. It wasn't about winning anymore. It was about love. He didn't win the competition that night. But he won something far greater, the hearts of millions. A year later, Juan stood on that same Manila street, now wearing clean clothes, holding a microphone. Behind him was a banner that read, "Free concert for the kids of Manila." Hundreds of poor children sat cross-legged, eyes shining with wonder. Juan smiled. "When I was your age, I sang here for boys," he said softly. "Now, I sing so that no child has to." He began to sing again, that same trembling voice, but now filled with peace. Margaret stood in the crowd, tears in her eyes. Somewhere in the distance, the world kept scrolling, watching, crying, sharing, and as his voice soared into the night sky of Manila, it wasn't just a song anymore. It was proof that kindness, faith, and one golden